telling you guys, they'll eat this alive. You will not have a problem wholesaling this deal. That's sitting on the market, not selling. So I want to talk about wholesaling creative. How many are consistently on a regular basis wholesaling creative in their businesses? Okay, so a handful of you guys, great. There's some things that we've really discovered as of late, and we're doing quite a bit of wholesaling creative. And the thing is right now the buzz in the marketplace is creative. It is the hottest thing that buyers want right now. A lot of this is market driven, right? Because of high interest rates right now. So you have the entire buy and hold industry that if they're doing DSCR loans or they're buying conventional, they're putting big down payments. Qualifications have gotten harder to qualify for those loans. And interest rates are 7-8% as of right now. And so if you can bring that same client a creative deal that has very attractive terms, what we're finding is you can wholesale those deals for a premium. In fact, stupid premium. In fact, like not even make any sense. And so I kind of want to break down what the psychology is behind this, why this is happening, and then exactly how you can underwrite these deals, and even some ways that we're doing this on properties that are just sitting that nobody is looking at. So it's a pretty exciting niche strategy. What we're seeing right now is we're wholesaling about 25% are seller finance, meaning they're free and clear. So the structure you would create would be a seller finance. There's some other types like contract for deed, land contract, or what's the other word we call those? Bond for title? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different names, but it's basically where the deed gets held in escrow until you pay it off, right? But it's a form of seller finance. And then we're doing about 50% subject to. Some of these are in default, so they're behind, and a lot of them aren't. And then we're doing about 25%, which is a hybrid. And all that means is there's an existing loan, but there's a ton of equity. So we create a second position seller finance to make up some or all of that additional equity. And I'll give some examples so you can kind of see what this looks like. Okay, so here's how to create a very attractive creative finance deal. And again, you could do all of this to just hold. So you guys that also hold, you could follow some of these same ideas, but I'm specifically talking about how do you create and package a creative deal that you can wholesale for a huge premium. And then I'm also at the end, I'm going to show you how we're adding that into basically our wholesale script with the same leads that we're already getting. So you don't have to do anything different with how you target leads. And that's the cool part. I'll also show how we're also specifically targeting these leads. But for the most part, it's just a conversation you're already having with the same leads you're already getting. And I love that part of it because it's not like we're spending all this extra money to generate these types of leads. Okay, so there are really 9 things that we want to look at and really understand. And I want to create more of like a grading scale of each of these because they all play a factor. And the more attractive the terms, the higher you can wholesale the deal. So if we look at it, cash flow is obviously what most people think of with a creative deal. If I can generate $300, $400, $500 a month, then a buy and hold investor is going to be very into that deal. And that's true. But what we found is cash flow is actually lower down on the priority if the other terms are really good. And I'll give some examples of this. But the entry fee would be the total cash at closing. This could be, cash to the seller. It could be commissions. It's always closing fees. It could be down payment. So whatever it could be, and it's definitely the wholesale fee, right? That wholesale fee is part of that entry fee. So entry fee is just, what's the total cash for me to take over this deal creative? And if that entry fee is under 25%, then that'll be attractive to a buy and hold investor. And why do you think under 25%?
Around what a bank would give?
That's what they would have to pay if they went conventional. They're going to be paying 25 to 30% down. So if you beat, what you're doing with creative is you're having that buyer compare your deal with traditional financing. And then beat traditional financing in every way you can.
And then your wholesale fee is included in the entry fee.
Yes, it has to be included in the entry fee. Yeah, so the way I want you to think about this is the better these terms, the bigger assignment fee you're going to get. And sometimes there's trade-off, and I'll give an example of some trade-off we did. But let's say that your total entry fee was 10%, including the wholesale fee. Very attractive deal. 15%, very attractive deal. Once you start pushing over 25%, less attractive because now the buyer's thinking, well, I could just go get a traditional loan and put less down to get into the deal. See what I mean? So you're always thinking How does this compare to what a buyer would do today? Interest rate. So if you're under 6%, good. Why? Why under 6%?
Can't find it anymore.
Because they're going to pay 7, 8% right now in the market. So the lower that is, the more attractive it is. We wholesaled a negative cash flow deal that had a 2.8 fixed rate, and we wholesaled it. Why? The buyer said, with 2.8 fixed, what's the mindset? What do you think the mindset is? Negative cash flow, but I'm buying at a 2.8 rate.
Whatever they're borrowing is free money.
My pay down's gonna be huge, and I'm gonna raise rents, so I'll lose a little bit now, but I'm playing the long game with my rentals.
Was it massively negative cash flow?
No, a couple $100. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
So it'll be good in 2 years when
Yeah.
the rent raises.
So they're like, I'll lose a little money, but I'm making it up with this good deal. Balloon. So you want to be watching out for balloons. So seller finance, they like to put balloons on them. Usually sub 2, we don't deal with balloons as much, just because the seller doesn't know to ask for a balloon because you're taking over their fixed rate. But usually a seller finance, they're gonna want some kind of balloon. So make sure you negotiate 5. We try to go in at 7, and then when they counter, we end up at 5. So anything under 6 or the balloon, get that thing at least at 5, because why? Why 5 years on a balloon?
In case the market drops.
Well, your buyer's thinking what? If it's a 1-year balloon, what are they thinking? Oh crap, I'm gonna have to refi in a year or 2 years. I want lots of time to appreciate, pay down, build more equity. They just want that window of time before they have to worry about exiting out of that debt. Okay, so get a 5-year balloon. Amortization. So this is a hack strategy that we're doing really good at. We're doing 40-year loans on our creative. Now, why 40 years? Makes the payment lower, makes the cash flow higher. So when we're negotiating a deal, we're using our amortization schedule, or the years of the loan, as a really big benefit. Now, when you take a 40-year loan to your investor, to your buyer, is that attractive now? Very attractive, because you're helping them create more cash flow now. Okay, so amortizations, tax benefits. So this is something that's very overlooked. We overlooked it a lot. We have buyers that will not look at really any of the other stuff. They're buying what? What are they really buying? The tax benefit. This is Chris. Chris is buying, a lot of you guys, if you're a high cash earner, why are you investing in real estate? Why are you holding real estate?
Taxes.
Not for the cash flow. You could care less about that. You're buying the tax benefit. So when you can show that, that's very attractive to a lot of buyers. So you want to make sure you understand that. So I'll show you guys my calculator. I'll give this to you guys if you want. It's a really simple calculator. I've seen so many complicated calculators. We made a really easy one for wholesaling that kind of hits on all these things. Cash on cash, that's a big thing. We try to always be in the double digits. It's going to be attractive. Cash on cash would be what you take your net cash flow against your entry fee, because that's the only cash you have into the deal. And we want to try to make sure that's in double digits, very attractive to your buyer. And condition's a big deal, because some of these projects need rehab. Some of them are really clean. Like I'm going to show you a couple in a minute that are like totally would be what Chris calls A properties. And but if there is some rehab, then we kind of want to bring that to their attention. So we give a rehab number, like, hey, this property is going to need 10 grand before it's rent ready or whatever. And then last is price. So this is a complete mind shift change from how we normally wholesale cash deals. Price is everything. It's the most important thing. Am I buying it at a good deal is what you look at. What we're finding with creative is price is like the last of their concerns. They don't care. They'll pay over value as long as the terms are attractive. So what it does is it opens up an entire world of overpriced properties that you can now wholesale at a premium. Yeah, complete game changer when you can figure out how to do this and structure these. So here's 10 steps that we follow, and I'll show you how we do this on a simple spreadsheet calculator. But first thing you want to do is you want to figure out the best use of that property, and that really means, can this be a short-term or long-term? Some markets it's easy because it's like, oh, it's going to always be long-term because I'm not really in a vacation rental type of place. But like in one of my markets with Chris Allen in Panama City, it's a vacation area of Florida, so a lot of them make more sense as short-term. So by determining that, it's going to determine how you're figuring out your cash flow and your numbers, right? Then we want to figure out gross rents. So if I am going to short-term it or I'm going to long-term it, what's the rents? we actually want to get comps. And later when we go to dispo, we want to be able to have those comps to justify our numbers. So we'll go on Rentometer or whatever, and we'll get 3-4 comps, and we'll include those comps in our marketing package. Make sense? So we figure out gross rents. Well, then we got to figure out our net operating income. I think a standard policy is just take 30% in operating expense. So that's going to include property management, taxes, insurance, maintenance and repairs, and some routine stuff. So if you can bring that in, showing that the NOI is about 70%, or take 30% in operating expenses to get your NOI, that's step 3. We need that why. Why do we need to figure out NOI when you're looking at a rental property? Cap, and we can't really figure out cash flow unless we know what our net operating income is. Okay? So then the fun part gets to step 4, and that's our debt service. And debt service, this is where the fun happens, and this is where the creativity comes in. This is where you structure a winner deal or a loser deal. Because now we're talking about what? We're talking about your amortization, your interest rate, all of that to create your debt service. So this is our PI, principal and interest payment. We've done deals where it's 0 down, 0 interest, right? It's all about how you can structure the debt service. Once we have NOI, we have debt service, now we know what our net cash flow is. So this is easy on the calculator because this is just a formula now. After that, we want to figure out our wholesale fee. Now we have a kind of a standard formula which works pretty well, but we're finding that we can get a whole lot more. So what we do with our wholesale fee is for every $100 in cash flow, monthly cash flow, $2,000 in assignment. So generally speaking, a $500 a month cash flow would be a $10,000 assignment. But having said that, if you have really attractive terms on all those other boxes, you'll get way more for it. So you'll be in the 20, 25, 30 on a normal deal if those other terms are really good. Okay, so and I'll give an example of that in a second. Once you know your wholesale fee, then you can get your total entry fee. It's all your cash in. Then you got to build your marketing file. I'll show you how we do that. I'll give an example of that. And then the best place to sell these is on these creative finance Facebook groups, because that's where those guys are hanging out. And we move most of them just on Facebook groups. You could put them on all the normal ones, but you want to make sure you're joining the national, because we sell a lot of these nationwide, out of state, to buy and hold people, especially if they're short-term rentals, because anybody will buy those. Like a buy and hold guy will buy one in Florida and he lives in Arizona. Now you can also dispo it to your cash buyer list, because again, if you dispo to buy and hold people, who's dispoing to buy and holders? Yeah, if you got buy and hold people, not just flippers, but buy and hold, they'll eat these up. We'll even do some of these to flippers, because if the numbers are right and it needs work, and a flipper can buy in without coming up with all the cash, they'll look at it too. So it works well with flippers as well if it's the right type of deal. And then then at that point you're back to your regular wholesaling where there's an assignment, get a big non-refundable deposit, and off to the races. Okay, so it's no different at that point. It's just a normal wholesale now with an assignment. In fact, we're using a pretty regular contract as well that just has a couple lines that say seller finance at these terms. With all of our creative, I strongly recommend using a transaction coordinator that's very comfortable with creative. And once you structure your deal, let them step in and work with seller, work with buyer, work with title to make sure all those moving parts happen, especially subject to, because you introduce a whole bunch more moving parts. Because now there's an existing loan, there's servicing and switching up how payments are made and insurance and all those things. And then a strategy that we do is in our assignments, we have a clause that says buyer, so your cash buyer agrees to pay a $495 transaction coordinator fee. And then we put that fee on the HUD, on the closing statement, that the buyer pays as a closing fee. And we, 9 out of 10 times, they never even question it. They just pay it. So it's a way to have your transaction coordinator paid for by your buyer. Every now and then they get upset and we're like, okay, let's split it or whatever, right? But that'll actually just pay your TC. Okay, all right. So let me give an example of one. So this is an example of a hybrid deal. And when you post this, So this is my partner in Florida. So I want you, this one's a hybrid, but I want you to look at the structure, how he did this. So what you want to do is you want to be super concise with everything that a buyer would need to see. So if you look at this, he's kind of, in the paragraph, he's kind of highlighting some of the best things about it. You could turn it into a duplex. It grossed 75 last year on Airbnb. So price, 725. Loan balance, interest rate on the sub 2, PIT on the first, seller financing on the remaining equity because it's sub 2, meaning there's a second position seller, right? Here's that loan. Here's the down payment, interest, amortization, balloon. You know, add it all up, total PITI on the first and the second. Average monthly revenue, 6,000, assignment 35, total entry 110. So you're kind of what you want to do is you want to make it at a, because creative has got a lot of things going on, right? Like this is not just your simple, here's the cash, here's the ARV, here's the rehab number. It's like all this stuff. And I use this one as an example because it was a hybrid, meaning there's more to it. But by putting it all together like that, you're letting that buy and hold investor quickly see everything about this deal. Then we do a Google Drive folder, which has all the comps. It's got a calculator showing all the breakdown on the finance, you know, whatever else you have. If pictures, video, all the normal things that you do when you wholesale. And this is how you would want to package and present this wherever you're trying to sell it. So this could be on your email list, to your buyer's list, or on a Facebook group or whatever. So I want to give an example now. This is one that we just wholesaled, and this would be like an A property. It's like renovated. This is my calculator. That's it. This one box, like that page, that's it. There's not multiple tabs. You're not scrolling over here and over there. Everything I just talked about is all on this one spreadsheet. So over here is how you're going to figure out your unit mix. So if it's overnight, you're going to be working in this box. If it's long-term, you're in this box. The gross rents are $29.50. You got your management fee and blah, 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 blah. We try to bring this in at 70%, so make sure it kind of fits that. So you see like 10% management fee and so on. This would look different, obviously, if it was a buy-in, if it was a short-term, because you'd have utilities and other things going on, right? Then we get our net operating income. There's our annual, there's our monthly, okay? Then over here, we're gonna have, if this is a seller finance, so I have a different one for sub 2, but it's basically the same thing. And then up here, we paid $329. Now guess what, this was on market, that property. This property was listed on market sitting, not selling, at $329. Guess what we paid? $329.
ARV
Full price.
29?
Yeah. ARV's probably less. Yeah, it's overpriced. Sitting on the market, renovated home. And wholesaled it for $23,000. Because the terms are so good. So look at the terms. Down payment was $20,000. So what is that? What percentage is that? 10%. What? Yeah. Okay, so low down payment. No commissions, because who paid the commissions? The seller paid the commissions. So no commissions. Closing fees were $7,500. They were a little high. That included the transaction coordinator fee and some other things. Assignment fee, $23,000. So then total acquisition puts it at $359. So they're actually paying $359 if you add up their entry fee on a $329 property. So the buyer is all in at $329 or $359, $359.5. See what I mean? How price goes out the window now. It's the weirdest thing and the coolest thing when price goes out the window. So that means that his entry fee came to $50,500, which is like 14 or 15% of the total acquisition. So this buyer's saying, okay, I'm going to get into this deal with 50 grand, about 14% of my total acquisition on a property that cash flows. We'll get to that, I guess, next. So let's look at the debt service. So the finance is 309, right? Because 20% down, a 550 rate. So that was okay, but not the best. But this was a really cool thing we structured, a 40-year loan. And the reason why is because he was really stuck on the 5.5. We wanted to be at like 3.5. So he's like, no. Seller's like, no, I got to have 5.5. And we said, okay, we'll give you 5.5 if you'll give us 40 years. And he was like, okay. It was easy for him because he's like, great, that means you're going to be paying me longer. And a balloon at 5. He kind of was like, I want to have that option. I'll probably be okay if you want to extend, but let's put it in there just so I have some parameters, right? So 5-year balloon, that brought the monthly at $15.93 PI, right? Which now means our cash flow is $481, right? Because we take our net operating minus our debt service of $15.94 gets us to $481. So this thing is showing a positive $481 on the cash flow. Awesome. When you get anywhere near those numbers and have it. So the reason why this sold for $23,000 assignment fee was the terms were sweet and it had good cash flow. So you get a super premium. Let's say our terms were so-so or the entry fee was a little higher, then that wholesale fee might have only been like 10. Because again, you have to take everything into consideration to figure out, well, how attractive is this deal? So see, here's our cash on cash. We put a land value box, and I don't know what this is. We just guessed it at 40, right? Which means this thing's creating $11,600 a year in tax benefit. And if you times that, if you super appreciate it or whatever, right, cost seg it, then that's times 7. So now you're showing 90 grand and it is a tax benefit on this one property that's also cash flowing, $500 a month almost.
The older guy will love that. Even
Oh, he'll eat. Telling you guys, he'll eat this alive. You will not have a problem wholesaling this deal. That's sitting on the market, not selling. So this is a deal we have right now. This is a Joe deal, and this is new construction, built in 2022. So just look at the listing history on Zillow. $395. Back in May, they did a price drop to $385. We have it pending right now at $395. We offered $10,000 over the current list price, and we have a $10,000 assignment signed on this deal. Not selling at $395, price reduction to $385. We contracted back at $395 to wholesale for 10 grand. Is that insane? Who thinks that's nuts?
It's awesome.
It's the property not selling. The reason why is, okay, so here's our write-up on it. $395 purchase. The only problem we had with this deal was they wanted a big down payment. So the down payment is $77,000. If we could have got that to 20 or 30 or something like that, this would have been a $25K assignment. But because of the big down payment, so what did we do? Sellers really stuck on their down payment. So what is our counter to that? Better terms. Hey, we'll pay your big down payment, but we want a 2.5 fixed rate. And the 2.5 fixed rate is what saved the deal. Because a buyer now is like, holy crap, 2.5 fixed rate on a new construction property? I'm in, I want it. Okay? Everything else is sort of normal, 5-year balloon. He did do an extension on that. And then PITI 1692, market rents are $3 grand. So it cash flows. So it's great on cash flow, great on interest rate, down payment a little high. So you don't always get like the best of everything. Usually it's like a give and take. You just have to understand the give and take. If you give something, you got to be able to make up for it in those other areas to still create an attractive deal. So this like overpriced property, we still assign for a $10,000 assignment. So here's what it looks like. You get your leads just like you normally do, right? You always anchor with your low cash offer. We always start there. Here's my low cash offer. They say, I can't pay that low. Normally we throw that lead away and follow up with them. What we do is we have a tiered process. So we always anchor low. And then when the seller says, I can't pay that low or I can't sell it that low, we come back and say, well, would you consider a higher price if you would be willing to wait to get some or all of your money? Would you be willing to wait to get some or all of your money if I could pay a higher price? That's the lead-in question. And they always say what?
Yes.
What does that look like? What do you mean?
That's our lead-in for novations too.
Yeah, same thing. Because you're paying more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always the lead into your other strategies, right? So you always anchor low. Hey, I could pay more if you would be open to creative, is essentially what we're saying. And so then what it does is it just starts the conversation. And they're like, well, what does that mean? Now agents, 9 out of 10 agents don't even understand what subject to is. A lot of them don't even understand what seller finance is. So you're educating the agent, if you're doing on market, the same as you would be educating the seller. And this is where the breakdown happens. This is where people screw this all up. If you can't explain this in a concise way to an agent or a seller, your deal's dead. Because if the seller doesn't understand it, they're going to say no. So you've got to learn how to talk and explain things the right way. And if you think about it, I use this analogy all the time. Let's take a house that's got a value, an as-is value of $100,000. I would buy that house for $1 million. If what?
Right finance.
If it was a 100-year loan and it was principal only and I paid $10 a month, would you guys do that deal?
Cash flow from day one.
I would cash flow it for 100 years and then give it back to them. No. But right, the point is the price doesn't matter anymore. Terms are what matter. So when you can make that mental shift, it opens up an entire world of opportunity in the creative space.
Including multi-units
And especially so when it comes to land and multi and commercial,
amazing.
creative is already generally accepted. So there's a whole lot less education that has to go on with agents and sellers. They're already used to that in any of those areas. So it's an easy conversation.
And that side is very little competition because 90% of people don't do that.
We'll buy our creative on terms and then turn around and sell it on terms. So we'll buy a lot for 25 grand, turn around on terms, 10% down. We'll turn around and sell it for 50 grand with 20% down. Buy on terms, sell on terms. Right? You can do that with commercial all day long because it's just so easily accepted already. Single family, it's a little trickier because people don't understand it. So you have to help educate them. Our third tier is list. We have right now in just my Tacoma market, this week we have $50,000 in commission checks because we'll list properties that they say no to low cash and no to creative. Our third offer is, well, let us list it for you. And we list them there for 3.5 to 4% list fee. So you guys that are in like a 500,000 price point, that's a $15,000 commission on a property that they said no to cash and no to creative, but they want to sell.
Jerry, how do you get
It's the easiest money we've ever made because we have an in-house person that lists them for us. It takes, pictures and a listing and it's on the MLS and we're done. It's just a last-ditch effort and all the stars need to align. But if you implement it, it will start to turn into real money. Nothing changes different in your marketing other than the conversation. However, we are actually targeting the ideal subject to structure. And what that looks like is we want to take currently listed properties that are 90 days old, and then we want to match that with some data. And this is where like Jason, I was talking to Jason about helping me create this customized list. But this is the dream subject to list. It would be listed for sale. Why does it need to be listed for sale?
they want to sell?
We know they want to sell, so it's not cold calling a list and saying, do you want to sell? We already know they want to sell. 90 days means what?
They haven't sold.
It's not selling. And why isn't it selling usually?
Too high.
Too high. And why can't they drop the price?
Because you don't have enough equity.
There's no equity. And that's why these other things matter. So ideally, the perfect list, like if Jason could create my dream list, it would be they purchased the property in the past 2 years. Meaning what? A couple things happened then.
Interest rate.
They got an awesome interest rate. And what else? They're upside down because market dipped and now they got to pay closing and commissions, can't sell. That's why it's sitting overpriced. That's the deals I just showed. It's not selling, overpriced, right? And then you want a 5 or under interest rate. That's the dream list. Because what are you doing? You're calling that agent and you're saying you're pitching sub 2. So typically with our sub 2 offers, you're going to want to, if they're upside down, if there's no equity, you're going to have to offer to pay the closing fees and commissions. An agent will not work your deal if you don't clearly define that they're going to get paid their commission. The other thing I didn't put on here is double dip. What's double dip mean?
They make both sides.
You do not work with a buyer's agent. You go directly to the listing agent and you offer them your side of the commission. You want them earning that full 5 to 6%. Now they'll go to bat for you. So think about the seller. Not selling, we can't lower the price, or I'm going to write a check at closing. You come along and say, I'll put $5 grand in your pocket. I'll pay the closing and commissions. Let me take over your loan. It's a dream offer to a seller who can't get out of a property. Now again, it only works if what? All those terms are attractive. Now you got yourself a 20K wholesale deal on a property sitting that all of your competition isn't looking at.